Welcome, welcome. Baruch atah Adonai
Hello.
Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay, so let's see where we are. This is Tet Zion, so we'll look at verse Tet Zion. So we've gone fast forwarded a little bit. Abraham is down in Egypt. He has asked Sarah. He realizes that Sarah is this beautiful, gorgeous woman, and he tells her, "Please say you're my sister." In fact, she is his sister legally. Legally. And I've explained it before. I won't go into it right now, but at any rate, so it's not that she's a blood sister. She isn't, but she is technically his sister through his father and her mother and her mother. So anyway, it says here, Ula Avram Hativ. So she agrees. By the way, she is unfortunately taken into the house of Pharaoh. Of course, Pharaoh sees how gorgeous she is, and gosh, life has not changed, human nature has not changed. He has decided he wants her for himself. So it says, Ula Avram Hativ Bavra, and on her account, he did well. That is, Pharaoh did well by Abram. Vihi lo tsonu vakar, he gave him, right? They were to him sheep and cattle, v'chamorim and donkeys, v'avadim and servants, ushvachot and maidservants, v'atonot. I think those are she-asses, ugamalim, and camels. So he really did well by Abram for his quote, quote, sister. Abram did quite well from that deal, right? So, uh, now, let's take a look here. I love this. Ula Avram, right? So Avram, he Ativ Bavura, right? Pharaoh did well by Abram on account of her. Amar Rabbi Chelbo, said Rabbi Chelbo, Le'olam Yehe Adam Zahir Bechvod Ishto. A man should always be punctilious, very careful regarding the honor of his wife. Should always make sure he treats her with honor. Marge, I hope Marge, sorry, Mead, I hope Marge is listening to this. Okay.
No, but I may be called away in the middle to help her
Here we
out.
go.
So go ahead.
She'ein habracha mitzuya, but listen to this. It just goes on. It says, She'ein habracha mitzuya betoch beito shel adam ela bishvil ishto, because blessing is not found in the midst of a man's house except on account of his wife. Wow. Shneimar, as it states, Ula Avram, and for Abram, Hetiv Bavura, he did well by her. Well, the he here, of course, is referring to God, but regardless, uh, Torah Temimah is going to deal with. This is in Baba Metzia, Tractate Baba Metzia, page 59a, right? So it's a beautiful, beautiful statement. It's a really wonderful statement here. The reason a man is blessed in his household is on account of his wife and how he treats her. And this, of course, you see, there's nothing new in the Torah. If the mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So, okay. Just a little more elegant way of putting it, you might say. The Afalpi says, despite the fact that Halashon Heitiv, that in the case of he did well, right? Who's the he in this case? Ka'e al Paro. It's referring to Pharaoh. Ach, but he says, think about this. Hein kol hatovot mehakadosh baruch hu mitgalgalot. He says, but the truth is that all good things ultimately come from the Holy One, blessed be He. They roll out uvaot be'emtsaut anashim, that God may well use human agency by which the good will come to a person. You may receive good things from another human being, but don't forget who's making that human being capable of doing it and desirous of doing it. It's all coming ultimately from God. If God did not want to have this happen, it wouldn't be happening. Or the Fisa, and according to this, if we understand it this way, Ein tzarich lama shekatav hamarsha, we don't need the explanation that the Maharsha, Shlomo Idlis, I think is his name, gave, right? The Hagamara, that he says he actually wrote a wonderful commentary on the Gemara that includes both halachic and agadic interpretations. At any rate, it's in the back of I think of all the Vilna editions of the Shas of the Talmud, in the back, and but he said the Hagamara mefaresh, right, that the Gemara is actually explaining the Heitiv, that the Gemara is trying to explain the Heitiv Ka'e ala Kadosh Baruch Hu, that the Gemara is understanding the Heitiv here to mean the Holy One, blessed be He, and the Torah Temimah is saying you don't need to go that route. You can say that the Heitiv occurs, that it does refer to Pharaoh, that the Gemara is understanding it as referring to Pharaoh in this drush, ki be'emet, because in fact, ein pshat hakatuv morechen, because you can't go away from it. This is clearly, it's referring to how Pharaoh did well to Abram, right? However, ulefi mashe katavnu, but what we just wrote, if we understand, right, that the verse itself may be referring to Pharaoh, but inyan mevu'ah b'pshitut, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Even if the verse is referring to Pharaoh, we understand the fact that Pharaoh did it to Abram still came from God, and the rabbis would certainly understand that. I mean, God is that first cause. God is that ultimate cause. And that's why we don't have to interpret this verse and saying that the rabbis were saying they were just, trying to sort of do a little flip there and say that the Heitiv referred to God. No, it doesn't. It refers to Pharaoh. And we don't have to go that route because we can say it's Pharaoh, but ultimately it's from God. Well, what happens, of course, is, and this is a foreshadowing, Vaninaga Hashem, and the Lord's smote et Pharaoh, Negaim Gdolim, tremendous plagues, right? Ve'et Beito, and his household. Al-Dvar Sarai Eshet Abraham, regarding the matter of Sarah, the wife of Abram. Now, we know that the Devar can mean a thing. It can also mean a word, and this isn't in the Torah Temimah, but I think Rashi was the one who said that she was saying, right, Al-Dvar, they can also interpret mean because of what she said, and that she was telling the angel to smite him and smite her and smite the et cetera, that Sarah was right there. Okay, so here we go. Vayinaga, he sent plagues. Melamed, this teaches us, shel al avon gilui arayot. We need to understand that for the iniquity of immorality, sexual immorality, literally gilui arayot means the revealing, okay, of erva. It means, the hidden parts, right? That revealing those parts, negaim ba'im, plagues come. But it's an expression that refers to a lack of chastity, right? A lack of being chaste, not acting modestly. So, l'chora, it would appear, I mikan hava, right? That if, I think what we're saying, that from this hava lemar, it should have sent, right? If we're going to say this, I think he says, it should have said denagaim ba'im gam al beito, right? If we're going to say this, we should say that a person will also occur not just to the person, right, but on his household as well. I think this is what it's saying. Kamohacha, like here. Dichtiv, because it says, Vayinaga Hashem et Paroah ve'et beito, because it says, the Lord smote Pharaoh and his household, right? Ve'yesh lomar, however, one could answer, de bazeh ein raya mikam. You can't say that's a proof from here. You can't say that's a proof. Why? Ya'an, because shegam beito shel Paroah hayu Ashemim b'ma'ora zo, because in fact, right, Pharaoh was the one who was about to act unchastely. He was the one who took Sarah into his, you know, wanted to be intimate with Sarah. But remember, the other people, it mentions how his servants mentioned Sarah to Pharaoh. So if in fact here God also was punishing his household, there was a reason, right? It wasn't because on account of Pharaoh's acting immorally, they had also acted immorally too, right? They were guilty in this occurrence. Kedemashma, as it suggests. Keep going. Bipshatut haktuvim, from the simple basic meaning of these of the scriptural text of the verses. Aval hecha shehabayit eino ashem badavar. But in a case where the household has no guilt regarding the matter, right? If it's just the man of the house who's involved in immorality and no one else in the house is involved, yesh lomar, one can say, Dehem ein nenashim, that they themselves aren't going to be punished. They're not going to be held guilty. They might have nothing to do with the fact that the man of the house is acting immorally. So there would be no reason for them to be smitten as well, as in this particular verse. So, all right, going on. Let's see where we are here. Okay. Nigaim Gedolim, right? Great plagues. Okay, what do we mean? So what great? What was great about those plagues? Tanya, there's a Tanaitic source, right? We know that means prior to the editing of the Mishnah, the compiling of the Mishnah. Kaf Daled Minei Shchinhem. There are 24 varieties of boils. There are 24 types of boils. Ve'ein lacha kashem mikulam, and there is no greater boil. There's no type of boil of those 24 that is worse, that's harder. Ve'sheha'isha kasher lo, and for which a man is going to, I believe what we're saying here is that a man is going to have a hard time being intimate with a woman. I think that's what it's trying to say. That being afflicted by this particular boil that they're going to mention, it makes it impossible, very difficult for him to engage in intimate relations. Ella, the only one, Ella, is something called ra'atan. Ra'atan. That's the name of it in Hebrew. So what's ra'atan exactly? So we see there's a Torah Temimah comment on this. Let's take a look. Mefaresh Bavli, Ketuvot Ayin Zayin Bet. It explains in the Talmud, Bavli, in the Babylonian Talmud, in the tractate Ketuvot, page 77b, Dehu min sheretz bamoach. He says that it's a kind of, I don't know, insect, perhaps we could say, right? But moach can mean either your brain or it can mean marrow, your marrow. So something like that. I mean, I suspect he's saying, although it doesn't sound like a boil, does it? Shchin. So maybe there are boils we know that insects can cause boils, eruptions in the skin. We know that. Okay. He goes on to say, he's done some research on this. Uvelashon Yavani. He says, however, in Greek, right, there is such a term, ratan, or some equivalent in Greek, perushor. The meaning of it in Greek is kol min nezila me'evare ha'adam. That ratan in Greek means any type of flow, nizila, flowing, dripping from the limbs of a human being, of a person. So we're talking about that kind of condition. Mead, as a physician, do you have any comments on that? Are you there? I don't know if you're still there. You said you had to leave? Okay.
Yes, I am here.
Oh, good.
Well, no, I mean, this suggests a venereal disease.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are several
Yes.
that I could name.
Mhm.
which would, include gonorrhea, which would
Yeah,
include herpes, which would include potentially syphilis.
yeah.
So, I mean, this is what it sounds like to me, anyway.
Okay, good. Well, not having the medical background, it's nice having you there to chime in. Thank you.
Okay, just no,
Glad you're
it's
still
kind of
there.
striking, the
Yes.
Talmudic references anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oops. What happened to me? Ooh. Okay, good. Sorry, I got some
Okay.
strange. I didn't know if you caught that little computer glitch there, but okay. So going on, we'll finish this up. Uvo laka paro or luka, and with this he was smitten. Pharaoh was smitten with Ra'atan. Shenemar, why? Sheneni naga Hashem et paro negaim gedolim. Why? Because it doesn't just say that Pharaoh was smitten with plagues. It says he was smitten with great plagues. The et beito, and it goes, and his household. And his household. I'm going to read the Torah Temimah, and we'll see. All right. Near so how does this sort of give us the conclusion we've just gotten here? Near it would appear the darish midalokati vayinga Hashem, the fact that the structure of the sentence is such that the verse doesn't say vayinaga Hashem et paro ve'et beito negaim gedolim. It doesn't say the Lord smote Pharaoh and his household with great plagues, right? It says it's that the Lord smote Pharaoh with great plagues and his household. Ella negaim gedolim. It says he smote him with negaim gedolim, with these great plagues, ve'et beito, and his household. However, the word beito, his home, his house, mashma, that suggests the oto naga negaim hashayachim lebeito. He was saying that he was smitten with plagues that had a reference, an effect on his household. Uveito zo ishto. And this is a very important point, that very often the Torah uses the word beito as a metaphor for a man's wife. So now we understand that this whole interpretation now makes sense, that we're saying that God smote Pharaoh with a plague that also made it impossible for him to be intimate with his wife. That's the uveto. And that's how we understand how the rabbis derive that there. And with this, we're going to end today's lesson. Again, I always leave a little bit. If you want to comment at all for the record, I'm open to your doing that. Otherwise, we will say goodbye until next time.